Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the media. On behalf of the leadership of the NDC, I wish to welcome all of you to the National Headquarters of the NDC for this all-important press conference. We have taken note of the findings and recommendations contained in the 55-page report of the three-member Ministerial Committee of Inquiry, which was set up to investigate the circumstances that led to the disturbances, shootings, injuries, and death of some persons in Ejura in the Ashanti Region on the 29th of June 2021. After an objective and painstaking examination of the report, we take the view that the committee's report is a poor attempt at cover-up. The report is full of faulty findings, flawed conclusions, and deficient recommendations, calculated to shield from accountability the murderers of a social activist, Ibrahim Muhammad, aka Machukaka, and the perpetrators of the subsequent state-sponsored killings in Ejura by the military. Today's presser will thus focus on some of the false findings of the committee, and particularly on the death of Machukaka and the recommendations of the committee which we find deficient, particularly those that border on the unfortunate happenings in Ejura on the 28th and 29th of June 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, after an objective and painstaking examination of the report of the committee, we in the NDC take the view that the committee's report is a poor attempt at cover-up. The report is full of faulty findings, flawed conclusions, and deficient recommendations, calculated to shield from accountability the murderers of a social activist, Ibrahim Muhammad, aka Machukaka, and the perpetrators of the state-sponsored killings in Ejura by the military. Today's presser will thus focus on some of the false findings of the committee, particularly the death of Machukaka and the recommendations of the committee, which we find deficient, particularly those that border on the unfortunate happenings in Ejura on the 28th and the 29th of June 2021. Distinguished friends from the media, our careful study of the report of the three-member committee reveals three fundamental problems which we find very troubling, to say the least. The first and most disappointing one is a false finding of the committee relative to who killed Ibrahim Muhammad, aka Kaka, who before his death was a social activist, as I've already indicated, and a member of the Fix the Country movement. The Justice Kumsin Committee in its report indicated that to them it is more probable that Kaka was killed as a result of a family feud and not because of his Fix the Country social activism. Friends from the media, nothing could be further from the truth than this claim by the committee. And we in the NDC are appalled by the very labored, albeit unsuccessful attempt by the committee to shield the perpetrators of that heinous crime from liability and punishment. That finding flies in the face of the facts and cannot be accepted by the Ghanaian people, who expected nothing short of the truth from any impartial inquiry, wet as salt into the sad events that unfolded in Ejura. We wish to make the point forcefully, ladies and gentlemen, that no credible or verified evidence of any feud in Kaka's family was adduced by any of the witnesses who appeared before the committee to testify, because there is none. One therefore wonders how the committee came to this contrived conclusion. Our checks as a party revealed that Kaka was at peace with his brother Idi and lived in harmony with him. This was duly corroborated by his wife, Sahada Hudu, mother, and family relatives of Kaka, as well as the people who lived with him or with them in one community. The idea that Kaka was killed as a result of a family feud is therefore the invention of the Kumsin Committee, and as such cannot be allowed to stand. It is quite strange, ladies and gentlemen, that the committee dismissed the testimony of the wife of Kaka, Sahada Hudu, about threats on Kaka's life by certain people who had issues with Kaka's social activism. It is no secret that assigns of the then MC of Ejura, Salisu Bamba, who became uncomfortable with Kaka's social activism, which they claim was exposing their boss, the MCE, and the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government to public ridicule and opprobrium, threatened Kaka with harm and death when he was alive. In fact, Kaka himself, before his unfortunate murder, had spoken about these threats on his life and indicated that should anything happen to him, the Ejura MC Salisu Bamba should be held responsible. This account was also confirmed by Umar Abewaka's friend of Kaka when he appeared before the Kumsin Committee to testify. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, it does appear to us, and I believe to all objective minds, that delinking Kaka from the fix the country conversation was the main reason for the setting up of the Justice Kumsin Committee. And that is precisely what they have done. Is it not rather curious that the committee conveniently chose to ignore and sweep under the carpet a warning letter written by the Ejura Police Command dated 15 June 2021, less than 2 weeks before Kaka's murder, addressed to Kaka, accusing him of offensive conduct conducive to the breach of the peace, all because Kaka was fighting for the development of Ejura and Ghana at large. This warning letter from the police followed efforts by assigns of the then Municipal Chief Executive for Ejura, Salisu Bamba, to silence and cower Kaka over his fix the country activism. To have ignored this material fact and rather come to such a contrived finding of a family feud easily gives the Justice Kumsin Committee out as one with an agenda to twist the facts right from the word go. Having jettisoned these indisputable facts and plausible testimonies by persons close to Kaka, the committee rather, for some strange reasons, chose to accept hook, line, and sinker the testimony of one Aminu Mohammed and Sadia Fuseni, co-tenant of Kaka, who claims to have witnessed the immediate aftermath of Kaka's murder on 26 June 2021. This, the committee did without due cognizance of the fact that Sadia Fuseni had earlier given a contrary testimony in her first statement to the police when the matter first broke, in which she had indicated that she saw 2 big sticks and 2 men bolting away from the compound after she stepped out. As a matter of fact, it was on the basis of the first account of Sadia Fuseni that Ibrahim Isaka, aka Anyas, and Fuseni Al-Hassan, all of whom are known bodyguards of the then Ejura MC Salisu Bamba, were arrested a day after Kaka's murder. How Sadia Fuseni changed her first testimony 2 days after and ended up blaming Kaka's own blood brother Idi for the murder when she had earlier given a different account to the police, and why the police have concealed this critical fact. That is the first statement given by Sadia Husseini. And why saying was not considered by the committee in assessing Sadia's credibility as a witness are mind-boggling, to say the least, and only speaks volumes of the desperate attempts by the Kumsin Committee and government at covering up the true circumstances surrounding Kake's murder. It should be abundantly clear to any objective observer that the initial accounts of Sadia Husseini, to the effect that she found 2 big sticks at the crime scene, which account has been confirmed by the police, completely belies the second testimony by this same Sadia Husseini, that it was Idi, Kake's blood brother, who killed Kaka. Clearly, no one person could have used those 2 big sticks at the same time to carry out that dastardly atrocity. That piece of evidence shows clearly that the account that there were 2 people involved in the murder of Kaka is more probable and plausible. Also, we find it quite strange and unacceptable that the committee made no efforts to verify the in-camera testimony of Aminu Mohammed, who testified as a friend to Kaka and testified to a feud between Kaka and his brother Idi. Per our checks, he, Aminu Mohammed, and Aminu Mohammed himself confirmed this. He lived in Burkina Faso and was not in Ejura when Kaka was murdered. He was also not in Ejura at the time of the Ejura disturbances on the 28th and the 29th of June 2021. Aminu Mohammed provided no evidence, not a scintilla of evidence, to buttress his claim that Kaka, before his gruesome murder, had caused the arrest of his brother Idi, and could not even tell the committee the offense for which Idi was arrested. Also, Aminu provided no evidence to buttress his claim that Idi traveled to Nigeria immediately after his arrest and detention and release in 2020, which claim has been flatly refuted by the family of Kaka. In fact, according to the family, Idi has never traveled to Nigeria in his life. Yet the committee wholeheartedly relied on this in camera. This evidence was not given to the public. It was given in camera to the committee members alone. And yet they wholeheartedly relied on this in camera testimony without verifying same from the police or Kake's family. There is no indication whatsoever in the 55-page report of the committee that they took any steps to verify Aminu Mohammed's claim about the existence of a feud between Kaka and his brother, Idi, before they came to the findings and conclusions contained in their report. So somebody comes to testify that Kaka was killed because of a family feud. He was killed by his brother, and that the brother had a motive to do so, because to him in 2020, Kaka caused the arrest of his brother. Now, the committee didn't reach out to the police in Ejura to confirm this, whether indeed Idi was arrested and detained in 2020. Aminu provided no evidence to buttress this. Neither did he provide any evidence to buttress his claim of a family feud between the two brothers. In fact, according to him, he was not even in Ghana when Kaka was murdered. He was in Burkina Faso. Aside that, and if you listen to the family very well, he has not even been in touch with Kaka for years now. Yet, this guy who gave testimony in camera, in secret, and which testimony was not contested, which testimony was also not verified, okay, got his testimony taken hook, line, and sinker. The wife, the mother, the family relatives of Kaka have all said that the two brothers lived in peace and harmony. and that Idi had no motive to commit that crime. And in fact, no such evidence was adduced before the committee. Yet this is what the committee and the MPP would have us believe. And so, friends from the media, to us, given the fact that the Justice Kumsin Committee had no smoking gun or conclusive evidence on the matter of who killed Machukaka, it is our considered view that they should have stayed their conclusion on the matter and left it to the police to resolve same through criminal investigations and possible forensic investigations to establish the truth. Rather, they chose to prejudge the outcome of the ongoing criminal investigations based on mere conjecture, as they have sought to do in their reports. This is particularly so given the fact that none of the accused persons, and this is a very important point, sorry, none of the accused persons were heard by the committee. Idi was not heard. None of the accused persons were heard. Therefore, aside the fact that the finding of the committee relative to who killed Kaka is palpably false, it also breaches the rules of fair trial and natural justice. We in the NDC condemn in no uncertain terms this shameful attempt by the committee at cover-up, and hereby unreservedly support the decision of the Kaka family to reject the report. It bears reminding the Justice George Kingsley Kumsin Committee that what the family of the late Kaka and the people of Ejura need is justice and not money. For there cannot be justice, there cannot be peace, without justice. And there cannot be justice without truth. And no amount of pecuniary or financial inducements, as recommended by the committee, can replace the precious soul of Machukaka. Justice and nothing short of that is what is needed in this case. Friends from the media, the second major shortcoming of the report of the three-member committee has to do with the deficiency or insufficiency of its recommendations on the state-sponsored killings of two Ejura youths, Abdul Nasir and Mutala Mohammed, and the maiming of several others on the 29th of June 2021. It is instructive to note that the committee found that the unprovoked firing of live ammunition by the Lieutenant Martin Opoku-Edusei-led military detachment into the crowd of protesters, which led to the death of two persons with several others sustaining life-threatening injuries, was excessive and unwarranted. However, the committee's recommendation on this important finding, which is that the military command should review the conduct of the Lieutenant Martin Opoku-led soldiers and, in quotes, apply appropriate sanctions, is nebulous and leaves much to be desired. This is because of the vagueness of this recommendation, which in our view has created a gaping hole for those trigger-happy MPP vigilantes clothed in military attire to possibly get away with their murderous act. If you say appropriate sanctions should be applied, what constitutes appropriate sanctions? The committee was constituted to recommend specific sanctions. And so for us, that hazy, that vague recommendation is not proper. We think that the committee should have recommended clear and specific punishment for these errant soldiers whose reckless conduct caused the avoidable deaths of two Ghanaians. The testimony of Multimedia's Irasu Sasaredonko, which was upheld by the committee and supported by video evidence, indicates that the soldiers, without any justification, fired live ammunition into a crowd of peaceful protesters, resulting in the avoidable deaths of the said two people and injuries to several others. Without any provocation or justification, the soldiers lowered their shooting angle, with some kneeling down to take aim and shoot at the retreating crowd. given the fact that precious lives have been lost as a result of the deliberate and cruel actions of these soldiers who were led by Lieutenant Adusei, which to us amounts to reckless disregard for human life. We think that the committee should have recommended nothing short of the outright dismissal and criminal prosecution of all the 10 soldiers involved, to serve as a deterrent to others and assuage the pain of the affected families and the people of Ejura. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, it is equally reprehensible and unacceptable that the committee did not recommend any sanctions for the political and top military actors who deployed these soldiers in the first place. This is because the committee's own finding, the deployment of the soldiers to Ejura was premature and needless. The committee, the Kumsin Committee, in their report, affirms our position that soldiers should have been called upon to quell the justified and legitimate agitation of the Ejura youth as a last resort. Yet, they were called in by the irresponsible and reckless and useless Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah, the commanding officer of the 4th Infantry Battalion, Lieutenant Colonel Kwesi Wari-Prepra, and the General Officer commanding Central Command Kumasi, Brigadier General Joseph Apo, as a first resort. And so, having established that the deployment of soldiers to Ejura was improper, one would have expected the Kumsin Committee to have recommended sanctions for those responsible for that wrongful deployment. But no such recommendation was made in their report. If this does not speak to a certain ground coalition to cover up the heinous crimes of these actual masterminds of the unjustified Ejura killings, then we do not know what else does. We in the NDC hold the view that the Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah, who without any due diligence or verifiable intelligence deployed soldiers to Ejura and gave them orders to do what they did, which he appeared before the committee to defend, ably supported by the 4th Infantry Battalion Commander and the General Officer commanding Central Command Kumasi, must be dismissed from their positions for the poor judgment they exercised on the matter, which led to the loss of precious lives and several injuries. The soldiers on the ground were only following the orders of these people, these real masterminds. Also, the committee's recommendation for the transfer of the Ejura District Police Commander, DSP Philip Kojo Hammond, whose reckless conduct provoked the Ejura disturbances and triggered the shootings and killings of 29 June 2021, is insufficient and I should say ridiculous, to say the least. In fact, that recommendation is an insult to the sensibilities of the affected people and their families. Transferring a police officer to another station in the same capacity and rank can never be considered as disciplinary action. Friends from the media, how on earth can a mere administrative transfer, which have been touted as a routine exercise by the security agencies in time past, be recommended as punishment for a senior police officer whose unprofessional and reckless conduct has caused the death of 2 Ghanaians and injuries to many? Again, we in the NDC hold the view that the committee should have recommended a more punitive and deterrent sanction, such as the demotion or even dismissal of the Ejura District Police Commander. Additionally, ladies and gentlemen, the third difficulty we in the NDC have with the Ejura Committee report has to do with its abject failure to recommend any sanctions for the senior security officials comprising police and military officers who appeared before the Kumsin Committee to lie under oath without blinking their eyes, ostensibly to defend the unwarranted state-sponsored killings of 29 June 2021 in Ejura. Specifically, Brigadier General Joseph Apo, the General Officer commanding Central Command Kumasi, was seen on national television falsely testifying at the committee's hearing under oath that their men on the ground gave verbal warnings to the peaceful protesters before they started firing warning shots into the crowd of protesters. This claim was found to be false by the committee. He, Brigadier General Joseph Apo, Lieutenant Colonel Pepra, the 4BN commander, and Lieutenant Martin Opukwaduse, who led the 10 soldiers on the ground, even went on to lie that some of the protesters fired back at the soldiers and that the protesters who died were killed by gunshots from the crowd. This was also found by the committee to be false based on video evidence of the incident from multiple sources. Most despicably, the Deputy Ashanti Regional Police Commander for Ejura, DCOP David Ajemai Ajem, and the Ejura District Police Commander DSP Philip Kojo Hammond lied under oath that the police deployed the water cannon vehicle to the burial grounds of Metro Kaka upon the request of Kake's family. This claim, which was refuted by Kake's family and found to be untrue by the committee, was what actually provoked and triggered the unfortunate disturbances in Ejura on the 28th and 29th of June 2021. Yet, despite these blatant lies that were peddled by senior security officials under oath, which amounts to the offense of perjury, the committee failed to recommend any sanctions for these officers. Friends, the crime of perjury is a serious offense under our laws and must not be treated lightly, especially in a matter of considerable national interest such as this, when these officials spoke under oath and were duty-bound to speak the truth and nothing but the truth. You cannot go and swear an oath before a court of appeal judge to tell the truth and nothing but the truth and lie through your teeth. Okay, and when you are found, you are left off the hook. That is an endorsement of perjury which should not be countenanced. We wish to submit forthfully that all persons who perjured themselves before the committee should be interdicted and prosecuted in accordance with law. In conclusion, friends from the media, we are pretty sure that at this juncture, you, who are objective observers, would agree with our assertion that anything but justice has been served in this Ejura matter as far as the findings of the Justice George Kingsley Kumsin-led committee are concerned. This grand agenda to once again cover up, obfuscate, and try to normalize an issue of such magnitude and importance only speaks to what has been a consistent trend since President Akufo-Addo assumes the reins of power. Indeed, the starred events of Ayawaso West Wuogon brutalities are still fresh in our minds. And so are the state-sponsored violence perpetrated by state security agencies during the 2020 general elections, which led to the death of 8 innocent Guineans. Consistently, perpetrators of violence have been emboldened by the nonchalance of the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government. Our once revered state security agencies have been bastardized by the NPP, who continue to integrate their vigilante elements into them. Some security officials who are paid by the Ghanaian taxpayer to protect us have found comfort in maiming and ending innocent civilian lives and getting away with their crimes. This culture of impunity and gradual breakdown of law and order keeps growing and festering by the day because the Akufo-Addo Bawumia NPP government is determined to promote lawlessness and shield wrongdoers. We in the NDC are appalled and disgusted by the phenomenon where otherwise respectable citizens allow themselves to be used by this Akufo-Addo Bawumia government to cover up serious crimes for political expediency, as is evident in the index case of the Justice Kumsing Committee. The events that unfolded at Ejura on the 28th and 29th of June, and this subsequent whitewashing of crime, impunity, and unprovoked bloodletting by state actors and security officials is yet another slur that has indelibly and irredeemably cast on the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government. Posterity, and I repeat, posterity, and indeed generations yet unborn, will forever remember this historical infamy. But most importantly, history will be most unfavorable and uncharitable to those who were entrusted with the responsibility to help unearth the truth, but rather aided and abetted in concealing same. We can understand how the family of Ibrahim Muhammad, aka Kaka, and other affected persons are feeling right now. We share in their grief and their pain. We know, just as the vast majority of Ghanaians know, that they have been handed a raw deal. However, we urge them not to despair nor give up. While they pursue other means of getting to the bottom of this matter, we wish to assure them that we stand shoulder to shoulder with them. But to those oppressors in this matter and their collaborators, be reminded that crime has no expiry date, and that the truth cannot be buried, for it will spring forth like a seed in the fullness of time. Thus, those making themselves willing tools of murder and anguish for Ghanaian citizens under this despotic Akufo-Addo Bawumia regime must remember that there will be a day of accountability for them, and that day is approaching very fast. Thank you for your attention, friends from the media, and may God bless our homeland, Ghana.